An ANANDA alert has been activated for 16-year-old SHANICE OWEN of Lime Tree Grove, Spanish Town, St. Catherine, who was reported missing today, November 18. SHANICE is of dark complexion, slim build, and approximately 5 feet 1 inch tall. Reports from the Spanish Town police are that SHANICE was last seen in Spanish Town at approximately 7:55 a.m. wearing her school uniform, a dark blue skirt, yellow shirt, and a pair of black sneakers. She has not been heard from since. Anyone knowing the whereabouts of SHANICE OWEN is being asked to contact the Spanish Town police at 876-984-2305, Police Emergency 119, or the nearest police station. In other news tonight, the Clarendon police are seeking the public's assistance to identify the body of a woman that was found in the vicinity of a bus stop in DAWKINS, Clarendon on Tuesday. The police reports are that at approximately 6:30 a.m., residents discovered the unidentified woman who had the name Leisha tattooed on her right foot. Investigators say they have reason to believe that the female was killed elsewhere and disposed of in the area. The police are asking anyone with information to contact the Hayes Police Station at 876-986-5130. As we continue with the news tonight, the Jamaica Police Federation and other members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, are expressing shock and concern over last night's fatal shooting of a trainee police constable in WHITHORN, Westmoreland. The JCF says this attack comes in the wake of a state of public emergency which has been declared in the parish. The victim has since been identified as Constable DUVAUGHN of WHITHORN in the parish, who was attending the National Police College of Jamaica. Reports coming into our news center are that shortly after 9:30 p.m., Brown went to purchase items at a shop in Nago Town, WHITHORN, when he was attacked and shot multiple times. Residents of the community alerted the police, and upon their arrival, his colleagues rushed him to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Brown is the third young man to be killed since a state of public emergency was declared in the parish of Westmoreland at the start of the week, and the 8th person to be murdered within the last 5 days. In the meantime, Prime Minister Andrew Holness, during his tour in Westmoreland earlier today, spoke at the State of Emergency SOE checkpoint in Savannah Lamar and met with the mother of the policeman who was killed last night. He pointed out that Westmoreland has been the epicenter of the crime surge in the last week and was on hand to view the work of the security forces as they ensure that the citizens are safe.
Today I decided to visit the parish of Westmoreland, but Westmoreland is also the epicenter in many respects of the crime surge that we are seeing. Just today there was the gruesome murder of a trainee policeman, and under very sad circumstances. So I'm here also to view firsthand the work of the security forces in supervising the state of public emergency here and ensuring that our citizens have the requisite level of security and safety that they deserve as citizens of the country.
Prime Minister Holness, in response to the shortage of police resources, said that this is as a result of the level of crime and violence in the parish.
That the shortage is as a result of the level of crime and violence. In other words, the normal manpower distribution for this area in the present would be quite appropriate were the level of crime and violence low. The truth is that the level of crime and violence, particularly in the community in which we are, is over and above the capacity of regular policing. I've made the point to you, there are communities right across Jamaica where there are no police in them. Many, the majority of communities, probably only see a patrol once or twice a week, and there's no crime, there's no issue. people can live together without crime. And there are many communities in Jamaica that do that. The challenge we have is that there are some communities where crime and violence is concentrated and elevated over and above the capacity, and they require more resources. What the SOE does is to give us the ability to have the police force and the military deployed. People will say, well, you can deploy the police and military generally. The difference with the SOE is that the military is also able to deploy on its own. The military operates on a different tempo than the police. And so their deployment can be more intense and more long-term. And that gives us a multiplying effect of the security force. And so we use the SOE for that reason as well, when we need more resources to be injected into an area.
Still making the news tonight. The Jamaica Police Federation says the logistics of the States of Public Emergencies SOEs may impact how rank and file members perform at checkpoints. Chairman of the Federation, Corporal Rohan James, said that rank and file members are worried about how they will perform at SOE checkpoints, with some required to work up to 14 hours per day.
While it is that the Jamaica Defence Force members serve checkpoints for 4 hours, and you will have 3 sets of JDF members relieving each other. It is not the same for the rank and file member who has to endure 12 to 14 hours at the same checkpoint.
Corporal James says the government has given more resources to the Jamaica Defence Force, JDF. He says additional pressure and lack of compensation may lead to underperformance from his members. He says the Ministry of National Security should be held accountable if the JCF's members fail to perform up to the expected high standards during the SOEs.
If the rank and file is given due regard and is respected, then it is incumbent that our employer looks at the primary fact that their time equals money, and compensation must form part of the conversation going forward. We cannot continue to allow the members to subsidize national security within our fairness to them. You cannot have a deteriorating workforce with their health deteriorating and the government does nothing to alleviate the pain and suffering.
James is urging the Ministry of National Security to step up.
It will further exacerbate the situation that currently faces the Constabulary Force. It is time for the conversation regarding how it is that the Constabulary Force operates and maximize its resources. Federation can no longer sit on the fence and allow the power brokers to continue in the vein that impacts the well-being and the welfare of the rank and file membership without getting involved. That is why we are embarking on a public education thrust to ensure that the public is fully seized of the issues that is impacting the quality of service to them, so that they can hold the employer accountable and those at the helm.
Still making Mello TV news, a special audit into the Jamaica Customs Agency JCA has identified breaches resulting in more than $2 billion in financial exposure and hundreds of millions in uncollected revenue. Auditor General Pamela Monroe Ellis tabled her report in the House of Representatives earlier this week. It found that the Customs Agency contravened both the Customs and Special Economic Zones Act. According to the Auditor General, control deficiencies led to over $660 million in arrears being owed by 3 importers that ran private bonded warehouses as of September 30 this year. The related items were imported between 2010 and 2015. The Auditor General noted that in most cases, the items were removed from the warehouses without the payment of the required duties, in breach of Section 122 of the Customs Act. It was further noted that 138 entries with related duties of over $308 million were brought before the courts in 2020 following queries. The Auditor General also found deficiencies in the agency's fuel bunkering operations. The report says the JCA failed to validate the authenticity of 765 declaration entries for bunker fuel operator BFO1 that were paid late and recorded as exports. These entries related to nearly 300 million liters of fuel with a customs value of approximately 12 billion. In the meantime, the opposition's People National Party, PNP, is calling for the Major Organized Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency, MOCA, to immediately launch a probe into the matter. Spokesman on Finance, Julian Robinson, in a statement today said it is critically important to determine whether or not this loss to the government's coffers is as a result of negligence or deliberate criminal conduct. Still making the news tonight, the Major Organized Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency, MOCA, and the Financial Investigations Division, FID, yesterday signed a Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, aimed at strengthening their response to money laundering, organized crime, fraud, and financial crime, among other things. The MOU was signed by MOCA's Director General, Colonel Desmond Edwards, and the FID's Chief Technical Director, Selvin Hay, during an event held at MOCA's head office along Oxford Road in St. Andrew. The functions of both organizations are to tackle public sector corruption, remove profit from crime, and dismantle organized criminal networks. The document signed will now allow for shared information, intelligence, casework assistance, criminal referrals, and operations between the two. Continuing with Mello TV News, Chairman of the Civic and Community Affairs Committee of the St. James Municipal Corporation, Dwight Crawford, is reporting that the Municipal Corporation is inviting public and private partnership for the rehabilitation of the Pie River Cemetery located at Bogue in Montego Bay. Councillor Crawford says the project will need funding of over $4.42 million and has called on members of the private sector, many of whom he says have relatives buried inside the cemetery. He further stated that the aim of the corporation is to restore the infrastructure and aesthetics of the cemetery and raise it to the standard of similar facilities in other areas. The Pie River Cemetery, which has been out of commission over the years, is in urgent need of debushing, repainting, and repairing. We go now to tonight's COVID-19 update. Jamaica reported 97 new cases of COVID-19 and 12 virus-related deaths yesterday, increasing the total of confirmed cases on the island since the outbreak to 88,666 and the confirmed deaths to 2,343. The Ministry of Health and Wellness said the latest deaths were recorded between August 20 and November 16, 2021. The latest victims are an 81-year-old male from Westmoreland whose death was previously classified as under investigation, a 76-year-old male from St. James, 3 females from Manchester aged 50, 70 and 85 years, a 77-year-old female from St. James, an 82-year-old female from Kingston and St. Andrew, 2 females from St. Elizabeth aged 54 and 97 years, a 55-year-old female from St. Thomas, a 68-year-old male from Kingston and St. Andrew, and a 76-year-old male from Manchester. Meanwhile, the new cases comprise 49 females and 48 males ranging in age from 2 to 89 years. 26 of the cases were recorded in St. Catherine, 24 in Kingston and St. Andrew, 16 in St. Thomas, 7 in St. Anne, 5 each in Manchester and Portland, 4 in St. James, 3 each in Hanover and St. Elizabeth, 2 in St. Mary, and 1 each in Clarendon and Westmoreland. The ministry further reported 175 new recoveries, increasing the total of recovered persons now to 61,313. And that's our news package for you tonight. Thank you for tuning in to Mello TV Evening News at 8. I am Shelley Ann Hill. Do stay safe and pleasant viewing.